Welcome back everyone to the first Q&A video that I have ever done. So it's somewhat related to CSS Grid, but not exactly. So the question is what to do with users that don't support one specific technology, in that case CSS Grid, and how to provide fallback to them without impacting your service too much. So I think the short answer is I think you're doing it backward if you're trying to have your main experience and trying to find fallbacks for users that can't support specific technology. And it's really like doing it backward, because you should be trying to get the base experience for your users. And if your base experience requires some sort of technology, you require it, and then you say, well, if you don't have that specific browser, you can't use my thing. Especially if, for instance, your whole website is React. Well, if you don't have JavaScript, you can't see the website, and you don't try to find like too many ways, because it will break everywhere if you just like hack things together. You should always, and it's like in the same model of mobile first, then doing the responsive for larger screens. It goes in the same way. It's like you should define your website to be usable, then add features as your user supports more features. So I'm going to show you what I mean, and it's going to be very, very simple. Obviously, I hope you understand where I come from. So I do have here a very simple HTML. It is my body. I have a container, header, main, footer, and lorem ipsum in the middle. And that is what we are going to style for your browsers. So in my case, what I'm looking for is what to do as part of the question, and this is like the longer answer, what to do with the 6% of users that can't use CSS grids. And some people say, well, you should just use flexboxes. It has better support and everything. And while it is true, it goes about the same, it's the same logic. So you have 98% that use flexboxes, that supports flexboxes, but you still have those 2% of users that won't be able to see it. And realistically, it goes to whatever you want. So you have like vertical height, for instance, only 94%, 93% supports it. And media queries, for instance, CS3 media queries, 98%. So it's always that case of what happens in those 2% or 4% or whatever for the older browsers, mobile browsers, and stuff like this. So I'm going to use less in my syntax here, just to be more succinct, and so you can see a bit more what's going on. I'm going to zoom a little bit as well. But basically what you want is you have here your HTML, how it's going to be rendered. I'm going to zoom a little less. And you want, for instance, to have anything that is the header or footer to be, let's give it like a background color of red. Then we want like something with an alpha version of it. Padding 1 rem. Okay. So first of all, you need to be here and say, well, that's alpha notation. Are my user being able to display it? So you need to go here and RGBA. RGBA is like 87% of people that can actually type it. So do you want to go for something like this? Maybe not. For your base experience, you want to build something that anyone can run. So this would be the way I actually usually write my code, but here it is not what I want. So it's going to be, I don't know, C0, C0. It looks just about the same, but there is no transparency here. And this is supported by everyone. So we don't have to worry too much about this. So now the question comes in and say, okay, so what's going on if I want, for instance, the footer to be at the bottom? The question comes and say, is it required for your website? If it is required, then you need to add this into your non-grid display. If it's not, you can just say, okay, I don't want to waste too many hours designing stuff and stuff. I want, for instance, to say, okay, if my browsers supports display grid, I'm gonna do some different things. So in that case, for instance, it's gonna be my container. Min height is going to be 100% view height. Yet again, view height, is it available? Yes, no. But in that case, anything that displays grid displays view height as well, so it's fine. So min height, then we'll have display grid. Then we'll have our grid template. Then we go here and say header, automatic, main, automatic, nothing, 1FR, then footer, automatic, and this is 1FR, and we need to just say that the header is grid area header, main. Actually, we don't need the first one, but for the sake of being thorough, we'll have this. Then footer is grid area footer. Okay, so now we have like this sticky footer that stays at the bottom. And for people that don't have a support for display grid, they just don't have it. If this is a requirement, if you absolutely need to have a sticky footer, well, not a sticky footer, but like a footer that stays at least at the bottom of the page and then gets pushed back. If this is a need, then you need to actually implement it here. So in that case, it's going to be something like, okay, I'm going to save a little bit of time. Don't yell at me. I'm going to use viewport height here just to make it easier, because it's just to show my point. So in that case, it's going to be display relative, this one. And I want my footer to be display absolute, bottom 0, left 0, right 0, height 0, sorry, height is going to be 3 rems, for instance. Needs to be not position. Okay, it's been a long time, guys. Okay, so here is my non-grid sticky footer, and if you just compress it, goes here, you'd see, oh, there's a problem. You go here and say, I just want, in this case, you don't need this one. I just need a padding bottom of 3 rems. And there it goes. Your footer always stays at the bottom. That's fine. That's great. This is your base experience. And this is what you need to cater like for your experience. And then if someone happens to have grid, then we are going to display grid for it. And here we need to fix our things and also say that my footer in that case has a position relative. There you go. And here we are in the grid setup, grid layout. Everyone is super happy. Now, if you are in the base layout and you want your text to not just like spread too much, you need to go low tech and go in and say, I require this to be not spreading too much in terms of width. Then you go in and go the old school. There you go. And my margin is now automatic. And for my longer and heavier text, I want this to be floated, like to be centered, old school. And yet again, if someone happens to have and support grid, then you just add features. So in that case, for instance, it's going to be 100%. But if we do have something that is screen and let's say minimum width is 750 pixel, then here you can have a different grid template. Here we go. So it's going to be header, header, header. Here it's going to be main. Here doesn't really matter how many dots. Then we have footer, footer, and this is going to be, for instance, 750 pixel, 1i4, and there you go. I'm just gonna remove one paragraph because it makes no sense to not show the footer. There you go. And now in my case, if I do have grid, you see I actually grid center it. But if someone happens to not have any grid, like the whole page is going to be centered, and that's fine. So you have your base layout, and you add features to it. It's the same as using responsive design. You do mobile first, because it's like the one with the most restriction in terms of interaction that you can have. No hovers, for instance. You don't have that much screen real estate. You might have less support for new tech or new features or whatever. So you want like the simplest version in your mobile first. Then as the screen grows, you add new features, new layouts or whatever. It's just the same with like support. You want to build a website, a UI that would work for your base requirement. And then as people provide more available features, you can enhance it. So if you have no support for, I don't know, responsive images, show the base images, but for the one who has that responsive images features, just go in and add those responsive images. So you'll always have some features that don't work on all of your users. And as much as you like it to be, some people will go on your website with command line browsers, no image display. Some people will have accessibility reason to just go and read all of your website and UI. So that's where like all of semantic HTML and so comes in. And you want to be as inclusive as possible for your base layout, and then add new features, new way to do it. And this goes like if you can provide a good mobile low feature version of your website, it's going to be very easy to add new things. And you can be sure that if something for some reason you have to support like older browsers and stuff, they will always have that fallback that will be good enough. But keep in mind that if if you want to do new things, like CSS Grid, for instance, you can always go in and say, okay, this is my large screen thing, and I want, for instance, to have my header here, footer, and let me see if it's gonna die on me, because this can absolutely be a problem of less here. And so I want this one to be 1 FR and this one to be 300 pixel. So when you go large, and I think I broke this. Oh yes, now it's because I'm not here. There you go. So if you want to have like responsive design like this, where you have my small screen design, my medium screen design, and then my large screen design, sure, it doesn't need to be broken for people who doesn't support Grid. They just have this design that works, and that's fine. So base, then you add features you add for small, bigger screen and whatever, but always consider being available for the base browser that don't have much support for anything, and then most of your design will be fine and age well. So yeah, I hope it answered the question, and I hope to see you in the next Q&A. Cheers!